Eating is such a science that everybody ought to know how to eat right. I recall while working in a grocery store in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, I saw a person who came in and purchased chicken, pork, greens, and corn. And I could see him licking the chops and saying, man, well, right he has all the things at home he's going to add. That was unnecessary because the corn, the the turkey or chicken, and the pork, basically they're generally protein. And just one could have sufficed now. I mean, the corn, although it's not animal acid like the beef, which the meat which we need as animals, it still will suffice sort of. The greens was okay, but three meats was unnecessary, or two meats and the corn was unnecessary. What he needed was some, starch, mashed potato, French fries, bread, whatever, and or rice and some fruits. Now, individuals also will choose. They go to a restaurant, $25 a plate, and what they will have is the same thing: some meat, some greens, some vegetables, fruit, and carbohydrates. I mean, you could eat that for under $5. And I wonder sometimes how the state normally comes up with how much they will give a person in aid to eat per month. Maybe it's unreasonable and so forth, but still, on the other hand, one doesn't have to eat each meal as for one person $8. Um, you know, um, chicken, you buy a certain amount of pounds, you could eat certain amount per day. It just calls for planning, and I think that we need to educate folks along this line because obesity is such a problem, and it's simply because of generally faulty thinking and faulty eating habits. Some people might have a medical condition that probably could sort of be responsible for the obesity, but generally it's poor choices. I see people at 12 o'clock at night eating hamburger and greens and vegetable. I mean, salad, tapas, bread, and some chicken or beef. And they'll have heartburn and they'll have to go, no, this thing, they have to go for an operation. All they have to do is stop eating so late at night. And sometimes they've had enough proteins for the day. And what I think happens with proteins, what I learned in high school is that um, if you just eat proteins without, um, without say greens and so on, I mean, especially in the plant kingdom, the plant photosynthesizes basically starch, and then later on it adds trace elements like I think it's sulfur, nitrogen, and some other things, and forms a protein which will store in a pod or in the root, like nuts or whatever. And so the body does a little bit of reversing here. It takes out those elements and gets back to the carbohydrates, so it could, do the energy thing and that. So instead of giving the body all that work, and I noticed, and I'm going to put an article up on this lady who is so thin, what do you call the word? She's suffering from anexuria, anexuria, slimming thing. Their body is kind of working on the fat in the bodies, they're digesting their fat and some cells and so forth. And so, folks have to be wise how they're choosing because health is so important, and all these bad habits end up costing us together because Social Security, which they may qualify for a Social Security income or whatever, it's unnecessary because a lot of people are bringing on, problems in themselves because of the poor choices. I have a friend here who's suffering from a debilitating disease. He's losing his strength, and just now he can't walk. His hands are curled in, and he can't hold. He can't even raise up to his face and so on. He has to bend down to get it, and it's generally he's weakening. And he had been avid drug addict. Today he's such a nice guy. He pays back his debt, and he bathes every day, and so on and so forth. And a lot of people are impressed by that. But I know the guy before. I know he used to bathe sometimes for a week, so on. Any money he gets, he wants to smoke, and he borrowing money, not even thinking of paying it back, and just sleeping on a bench up or in Old San Juan. But today now he's almost dying, and he's reporting to these good, principles and so forth. And I said to myself, if he had been doing these things all along, he wouldn't have been in this situation, because many of these sort of degenerative diseases, and I am no specialist, but my way of looking at it is that our body has certain defenses, and if we all use certain chemicals, we may all have the same problem. In California, I noticed two friends, um, both of them having problems with the back, and therefore the wife out there, they're trying to get somebody to deal with the wife. But I know how that has ended. That's ended in some jealousy and somebody big dying and so forth. So I'm not getting involved with that. And I believe that the chemicals that we're using is kind of like affecting the bones and the discs within between the vertebrae, back and neck. And so when they degenerate, then you have these problems. I mean, there's the natural degeneration that happens, but these chemicals seem to sort of accelerate the deterioration until it comes to the place where they can't function. And then you're having some extra problems now. So folks need to understand that they need to take care of their health. As a young man, I look down the road and I say, you know what, these people in my community here that having all these problems, I don't want those problems. I want all my days, I must be strong in measure, have the strength in measure. I mustn't be 30 and have the strength of a 70-year-old, or 60 and got the strength of a 100-year-old, feeble, and you need already people to help him out and so forth. And it's possible. I mean, there are people who, I guess, born with not a great constitution like others, but so when they're using these chemicals, the chemicals erode the normal defenses that the body has, and then these ugly degenerative diseases show up. I mean, we have Pryor, the comedian. He had this debilitating thing put in a wheelchair, similar to what this guy has, and they all been doing drugs. Now, there are people who might have the same disease and haven't used drugs. I'm not sure they're going to have that at a young age or whatever. But, folks got to be careful and making right choices from the start. Training kids how to do right things is going to augment for the long term.